Hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Man, it just seems like deja vu, doesn't it? I think in many ways it does. And I'm sad, of course, to be joining you with news that's very similar to yesterday and the day before yesterday. And that is, of course, news of fatalities, shootings all over, just really everywhere. So we're going to kind of buzz through some of the top stories, just kind of look at what it is that they have to offer and kind of just move through. I want to see what some of you guys think about them. Of course, we will be joined later this evening for a live chat about it. Now, here in Minnesota, you guys know I did kind of a controversial show last night about the verdict of Chauvin. I absolutely still hold true to the verdict. It's not a substitute for behavior of any kind that breaks the law. And when I said, listen, even moments before the verdict is announced, regardless of how it goes, this isn't necessarily going to be a label or a validation of so many people dancing in solidarity. Now our nation can heal. Justice, justice. And it just simply is not. It simply is not. And it's not a mile marker of justice by any stretch of the means. And some of the anti-protest laws and things that are being pushed through in result of this and the way and state of what Minnesota currently looks like as a result of this entire nightmare is a big discussion. But I love it because it seems like I had a big reaction. I woke up to a lot of messages from you guys that were on both sides of the spectrum, a little bit here and a little bit there, and so many really interesting points. And I want to mention and address every single one of them. I think one of, before we get to the news, just to say the one that I think is probably the most important is law enforcement and the accountability of them. So many people saying, gosh, I really agree with you. And I want to know, how is it that I can help? What is it that we can do? Is this a civil rights thing? It really isn't so much as a revolution of our mental health services and our social services. A lot of people that I speak to, and when I speak to even police officers doing continuing education credits, or when I'm speaking to a student community or a demographic of offenders, the redefinition and looking at the position of police, right? We're not saying that they are more important than a regular citizen. But when someone says, listen, just because you are wearing a uniform doesn't mean insert whatever. And of course, it doesn't mean that you're greater than the law. It doesn't mean that you suddenly have sheriff's ability, even though that is happening in some places and does lead to that space eventually if things get out of hand, excessive force. But for the most part, we use our Dana Carvey fingers. We have a lower rate of crime when you have a higher rate of standards. And you also seem to have, when the community is respectful of positions of power, elected officials, people that we do put in a uniform, that we put in a car paid for by our tax money, that we say, you are the people that protect the law in our area. We have you patrolling, we have you doing this, and preferably it's deterring crime. Preferably police aren't needing to use excessive force or be put in the position to have to make the mistake of between a gun or a taser. And the kind of battle cry of, comply, not die. It's very important. It doesn't mean that just because you don't comply or just because that you resist arrest, does that mean that a police officer has the right to kill you? No, but does it mean under certain scopes of the law and social contract that we give them as regular citizens to say, please take this horribly stressful position, go work really long hours, go put on a uniform where you personally, ethically will matter a little bit, but for the most part, you are a policeman. You are policeman for, our village, and that you go out and you protect our laws that we make sure we like and protect and put through. The fact that people are coming onto this train over here, they're breaking laws, they don't know the laws, they're not getting their tags updated, they're not doing this, they don't care, they don't give a shit, they're doing that. They're carrying guns. They've been arrested. They've been arrested once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. In George Floyd's case, more than 9 times. And this is a person who is a criminal. And then you have someone who, they might absolutely be an asshole, and it doesn't give them a pass just because they have a badge. But people misunderstand You protect and serve the law. You don't protect and serve me. And so, yes, you are in a uniform, which means we expect you to behave better. We expect you to not go and to know what you're doing and to be well trained. But that also means that you've got to be well rested. That means that you can't be stressed. That means that you can't be, in the middle of worrying that 500 people are going to swarm the area and possibly be breaking additional laws and putting themselves and others at risk, in danger, as people with babies on their back find their phone more important, as people are dying in a flaming vehicle in a face down flames and people are looking for their phones. Guys, this is not a police problem. This is a human problem. This is a societal problem. This is a breakdown of our standards as a people, not as a Black people, white people, people in a badge, people not. This is a people problem. And so I need to emphasize that, and that the decision-making and the cognitive process and the control and the organization and the demand of service and all of this, these extensions and these little octopus arms, comes down ultimately to personal accountability. It starts with self, and then it starts with your children or the people that you are responsible for in and around your bubble. And then it is, that you're saying and doing things that have good intentions. And we kind of expect this of everybody, especially those that we elevate above the law and those people that we put in those positions of election. And that's why when we see these horrible politicians like moving out to the Topanga Valley and going, oh, it looks sad down there in the depths of Surfville. I don't have those problems up here. Another coffee, please. Like, that's the privilege you're talking about. That's the privilege that's real, and it's economic. The fact that, oh, so what is it that you identify as? Okay. Yeah, no, get on the Moderna one. That should be just fine. Yeah, no, we're so glad that you came. These what masquerades as something good, if it's making money in the back door, guys, I would really hope Darwinism is asking you to question, to be skeptical, and that being skeptical, questioning something, doesn't mean you're a conspiracy theorist. It means you're interested in the facts that go beyond it. It means you go, ew, that makes me feel gross or weird. Ugh. You do have an emotional response, but instead of taking that emotional response without any factual evidence to support why, you just go, ugh, and then puke it up back onto other people and recycle that hate. Justice, burn it down. This is why people that are rational and cognitive, they don't understand this, because this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't create nothing. This is not an answer. This has no facts. You've not taken any time, nothing like that. So you have to be able to stop, pause, chill, remove but it's horrible. It is horrible, but it's atrocities. It is really. But that's why we ask that you not be compromised. That's why we ask. And of course, but not every jury can be impartial. No, you're right. Nothing can be perfect. Absolutely nothing can be perfect. But we should strive to be perfect, but not expect perfection. It also means that when we know something is impartial and we go, the president has said this state representative has flown in on their magic jet to say this, these people come randomly, Sharpton is here, this person's here, let's see, all the people from the Rodney King riots present? Yep. Okay, good. All the people from the 1994, tell me, where were you? On the riots on the streets, tell me, where were you? And your mama, those people, where were you? Oh, okay. Yeah, you're there here too. Okay, just to making sure that we're all here, because it's a deja vu moment, guys. It's a replay moment, guys. And it's one of those, if you don't want history to repeat itself, you don't want this to happen to your children and your grandchildren and these kinds of things, that we stop it right now and go, God, this is just as horrible as it was then. But again, as I said yesterday, it doesn't matter what the verdict will be. You will either take a sacrifice to due process and mob rule will win, and nothing really will change. And it didn't. Reform won't really happen. It won't. And I'm not being pessimistic. I'm saying that it's because the focus is in the wrong space. And you're screaming it at the protest, like, why? What? It's because we don't want to be reactionary. We want to be in a space where we are preventative. We want to deter things. So where do you go? You do like listen to Elon Musk talk about, well, you don't look at things the same way. You don't go like, where are my flying cars at? And instead you sit back and go, holy cow, we've been having flying transportation of groups of people drinking and doing this in the air, known as airplanes, for quite some time. Flying cars have existed. They just don't look the way that you think that they look. And you need to break these constraints of what it is that you're expecting. Your perspectives need to kind of open up a little bit. And that doesn't mean that when you reach out to someone and they're like, what? That they're a conspiracy theorist and that you should shut down, and that just because you have an emotional reaction that you should try and not listen to any of the facts. So in other words, horrible, horrible, horrible news. Just moments before the verdict goes out of the Chauvin trial in Minneapolis, as well as the rest of the world is watching, you have an Ohio shooting of a teenager. And yes, so knowing the facts of this case before it even plays out, because it's only less than 24 hours old. This is happening before guilty, not guilty even hits the media. And what do we have? We're going to have people already have them happening. What? That's right. Didn't last very long, did it? Our nation will now heal. Really? The monster is not fed. And here we are where people are rioting, shouting, looting out in Ohio. What? Not New York, not like some big crazy city. Actually, Ohio, it's a city. It's got people. They're there as well, having the same problems that are in a lot of these other areas. And you look at this person, you hear the call coming in. Micaiah Bryant, Columbus police. They did a great job of releasing the body cam footage right away in the first few hours, media didn't even know. Is she 16? Is she 15? What is she? We didn't know. And this is where, for me, as it was happening yesterday, and my friends and family in Ohio, it's where my brother lives, as people are rioting, oh my God, Sarah, it's happening all over. It's, I hope that things are better there because that people are rioting here. Why? Why are they rioting? I thought he was found guilty. No, it's because there's already another shooting of a black teenager. Here we are again. Good morning, Ginger, Anthony, Ruth, Jason. So many crazy famous people up in here, by the way. Good morning from rural Ohio. Again, fellow Americans, I hope you guys are safe out there because, yes, on just a Tuesday night, just a regular Taco Tuesday, 420, anywhere and everywhere across America, everybody waiting in the world, heaving a moment. What's going to happen? If he's found guilty, Minneapolis will be okay for a brief moment, but due process and American citizenship and liberties just suddenly take another stab, another stigmata. And that was okay, I guess. But meanwhile, people are still being shot. But is it a reason to riot? Now, here again, I know I'm probably not going to have the most popular opinion because heaven forbid I say this. It was justified. It absolutely was. Because again, police officers take a position to protect and serve the law. And when people misinterpret that as me, it is you in a sense that serves the people. And when you have someone, camera footage, body camera footage, it happens very quickly, as many crimes do. You think, what? She's 15? No, she's 16. Wait, why are we do not know? Oh, because she's been in foster care for a very long time. Okay, let me take a look at her. Oh, wow. She's a young Black woman. She's rather large. She's been in and out of foster care. She's using a knife. She's stabbing other women. She's emotionally compromised. She's probably... It's very stressful to be anyone in America right now. If you're Black, if you're white, if you're short, if you're not, if you're Asian, we all have our reason to be fearful if we want it or need it. And someone having a bad day for whatever reason, she decides to take a knife and start stabbing people. She's been stabbing people. She's stabbing people now for more than 10 minutes because that's how long it took for the police to respond to the call. So the call comes in. It's been more than 10 minutes. They arrive. She's still actively stabbing people. And when you look at her, she's very big. She looks like a grown adult person. She looks quite large. So freeze frame. She's in this position, guys. She's going at it like Mortal Kombat. She's on it. She could be, who knows? We don't know. And unfortunately, as many police officers or those people who know what it's like to respond to an emergency like that, you don't always have the information. It's usually hindsight, which is unfortunate, but that's part of the price you take to serve, and we as people that don't serve say thank you. When we see you getting your donut, we buy it and say thank you for your service, and they say thank you, and they show up when we call 911, and that's how it works. And when you see them show up, if you're at all reasonable and have parents that have loved you and taught you, which obviously this young woman has not had, another victim of the foster care system and the culture in America. It's not just Black people, believe it or not. It's most low to middle income people struggling, especially people of color, yes, and people that are in the foster care system that are struggling and they're mentally ill and they're having to be a teenager and they're in and out of a Zoom call, and you've got all this craziness and people aren't even held accountable, and there is no structure, there is no routine, there is no guidance, there is no love, there is no nothing. People are out screaming on the streets. What do you think? Well, she's taken a knife. Well, I can tell you as a forensic psychology person, any young woman who takes a knife to stab people, that's an intimate weapon. That is a vulnerable extension of self to be a part of what goes into someone to cause the damage. And that cycle of abuse means she's probably been penetrated. She's probably been raped. She's probably abused. She's probably lashing out. And you know what? Going for the jugular of another person, the police officer responding from behind, put it down, put it down, put it down, put it down. And she doesn't. Pow! She dies. Is it sad? Is it horrible? Dead body of a young person? Oh my God, that's horrible. She's how old? Oh my God. That police officer now has to deal with that. That person is someone's parent. That person is out there serving the community. They serve you. They serve me. And how good are they going to now be at their job? It's horrific that this happens. It's a ripple of trauma that happens to the community. It happens to you. It happens to me. It happens to all of us. And it's a shame. And it started somewhere, probably with some guy raping some small, victimized, vulnerable young person who didn't know how to accurately say no, because so many people scream so many inappropriate things from now on, choke me, rape me, whatever. I'm just kidding, that you don't know the difference. And who knows, justified or not, a series of unfortunate events, also known as life, happened to this person. And we have to, by law and order, by just standard of everyone, social conduct, please. And you teach, keep your hands to yourself, golden rule. Maybe you go to church, maybe you don't. But you do understand, if a police officer pulls you over, you listen. If a police officer does, you show them your hands. If you're reaching, who knows what you're reaching for? They don't know what you're reaching for. You know, there's just, again, series of unfortunate events. And hopefully this happens to teach people that the problem, it's not the police that unfortunately are the ones that have to end up pulling the trigger, and they are the messenger of a really horrific plague happening throughout America. And it's not the pandemic that is COVID. It is the pandemic of a lack of empathy for one another and a lack of common sense, as far as I'm concerned, because no one cares about the facts. And she probably had some major behavioral health issues. She probably was really struggling, and it was probably suicide by cop, which happens a lot. Can you imagine going to work and somebody simultaneously somewhere in your community planning for you to be their killer that day? That happens every day. And as people in the chat are sharing, two wrongs do not make a right. And as an offender might say to me, and as John Wayne Gacy said, he was only guilty of running a funeral home without a license. As someone who is going to protest something, you have to at some point realize that going out in masses onto the streets littered with heroin needles and people living in tents so that the media can propagate some story that makes the rest of everyone get all geared up, if you understand and can comprehend that that may not actually change anything, but instead doing something, doing a petition, going out for local representation, taking out people in your office area, being able to go to Waltz, being able to go to Fry, being able to go to that person and say, listen, I don't like that this has happened. And I don't like that this has continued to happen. And I don't like that the media keep flying in here and ruining our freaking city. And I'm done with it. And I'm not going to go out there and prance around in a protest like it's worked before. And I understand that some people need that visual, but obviously it can be looped from last year and is. This isn't doing anything. And so to be able to go and understand how to revamp, why are you wanting to dismantle the police when you could be dismantling the foster care system, when you could be dismantling the mental health system? You could be really dismantling the systems that aren't there, that don't need even really dismantling at this point. They just kind of need to be blown over like that. And if you want to go for the places of people that are vulnerable, that really need your help, where you can really do something, I can tell you, and I can't ask for you to trust me, but I can say that, trust me from experience, that you'll spend time over here doing mental health services. You'll realize, wow, this child isn't necessarily autistic. He's sick. He's got a horrible diet. He eats nothing but chicken nuggets. His parents aren't there. They're dropping him off. They're saying that he doesn't listen, and they're handing him an iPad for 11 hours a day. The problem is not the child. The problem is the parent. And I can't really help here. So then you shift over and you do law enforcement. And then you realize, wow, this isn't really helping either. People are, half of the people are very respectful, and the people that are breaking the laws are really rude to me. Weird. The people that are rude are the people who are rude to everyone. The people who are breaking the laws are the same people who are out in droves, like beating people to death at night when the sun goes down. And can you believe there's still sundown towns? Yeah. Have you been to Quindaro in Kansas City, Missouri after sundown? It's not just a race thing. It is, if you want to get shot, almost, and how sad is this? Almost every major city in America has a ghetto, has a big ghetto, has a horrific ghetto. Even Venice Beach has become a ghetto. And when you look at the correlation, I know it doesn't mean causation, right? We learned that, but you start to see the patterns, and broken window theory applies. Okay. Basic criminal, basic psychological, basic sociological concepts apply. We need to understand the police really aren't the problem. And I know people don't like to hear that. Well, if Floyd was the one who was on the Chauvin's neck and it was the other way around, then I'd be calling you, what? You need me to insert the numerous cases where there's white people dying at the hands of police officers? Does the police officer have to be a person of color? What do you need? Because we can, but it doesn't matter. That's these individual cases, these subjective individual. This is not. Someone said, what is a sundown town? That's new terminology for me. In a lot of southern parts of America, if you're not from there or not even from America, sundown towns are a lot of like those KKK, where the Jim Crow laws still are kind of existing. What do you mean? Like the same kind of laws where women get beat by their husbands and the cops show up and go, is there a problem here, officer? And the officer says no. And then people just kind of wink, nick, nudge, nudge, because you can admit to, yeah, all those same traditional, cultural, horrific things that are rooted in control and violence and the misuse of abuse, cycles that we can break, believe it or not. A lot of it are alcoholism, self-medicating, ignorance. We can work on this together. We can. And a sundown town is predominantly one that is known to have like KKK or people that go out and massacre people of color. But we also have sundown towns in a sense of like metropolitan areas where once it gets to a certain time, to get home. To get back, because it's and it's not just for white people. This is people that tell you that live in these areas will say, yeah, this is a sundown town. You don't want to be here past sundown. It gets very violent. You're going to have people stealing your catalytic converters right at 5:30, taking any kind of copper you have on your old air conditioner. They're going to this is not a place you want to be. Kind of like, an old National Lampoon Vacation, stop and ask for directions in the wrong spot. Dallas gas station, sometimes on the wrong off ramp. So yeah, and Minneapolis wasn't always a sundown town, and I don't mean that in a racist way. Now it's more of a violent criminal kind of space, and believe it or not, most people would think, gosh dang it, can you imagine Minneapolis? I mean, it used to be that after sundown, you might get some drunk people. You'd get, some people standing on the corner in the right spot trying to sell themselves for prostitution. But it wasn't so much that Minneapolis, no matter where you were, that you probably didn't want to be out, or you probably didn't want to be, especially for me, riding around with an American flag or something from, my husband's service, or something from a family member, or, an honors badge from, my law enforcement program, that I actually might be in danger. It's just really, really, really important. So I want to talk about the psychology of this because, again, right as we get this verdict, oh, now it's so wonderful. No, bang, bang, shoot, shoot. We have this very sad situation happening in Ohio. But you know what? Over the weekend, we also lost more than 23 people just in Chicago alone, one of them a 7-year-old girl. And you don't see that on the news. You don't see people rioting or protesting on her behalf because, let's face it, this isn't the narrative of this person shooting this person, which seems to be a very specific narrative right now that's getting people all riled up. And what I have to say when someone's like, well, what do you say then if you think? And I said, listen, just kind of step out for a second, omnipotently, step out for a moment. And if you can honestly say that yesterday, everybody waiting in a heaving, Schumann Renaissance, everyone anxious, oh my God. The fact that people were so scared that if it tipped one way or the other, the city could burn, that I want you to pause that moment. That is an indication that justice is not present and the sham flammery that you're watching is absolutely real. And it is a certain level of fear that it's still requiring a certain level of propaganda. If you turn the news off, if you turn it off and you pay attention to the facts and you go and talk to your neighbor, you get to know your community, you understand what it means to take care of yourself and your loved ones, and you respect yourself and other and just get back down to the golden rule, you will understand that there is a hierarchy. It doesn't have to be corrupt. And when it is corrupt, it's usually natural human behavior left unchecked. It is the Stanford prison experiment. That is criminal behavior 101. And I say that because anybody you turn your back to, this is like, I think the Kardashians did this with Skittles and their kids. Like, how cute, this hashtag, like, leave your kid on the couch and put a bowl of Skittles out and walk away and record what they do. And then you'd watch these little kids and the kids that are like, just wait, cute. And we say, good job. And you say, good, look how good you were. That is so great. And we say, that's wonderful. And that is wonderful. And that's great parenting. But on the same hand, you watched like one of the other kids that was like, fuck this parent. And the parent comes out, did you wait? Uh-huh, I did. Lied right to them. Oh, wonderful. Then you find out they lied and you find out they broke the rules. And you're like, wow, they are really rotten. They're so naughty. And then you don't do anything. There's no punishment. There's no consequence. Nothing. In fact, you still share the video and it probably gets more likes than the kid that did a great job, which is mind-boggling to me because people go, wow, you should spank that kid. No, they shouldn't. Mind your own business. Oh, yeah? It's controversial because people intuitively feel the need to get involved. We as a group species feel connected. Empathy. Believe it or not, empathy. You mean police will make mistakes because they're human? Yep. You mean there's conspiracies of how like this is nanotechnology and how Elon's going to be saying, well, if everyone's got this and they know that and they can speak languages and they can overcome adversity and they can do this, that we should have police that are like part cyborgs? I know it gets really crazy really fast, but that's like in a few years from now. Oh, when astrologers say there's supposed to be some revolution in the 2026 because that's like when Pluto does stuff. Yeah, it's a few years from now. We don't have to worry about it. Okay. Yeah. We'll do that when we get We'll do that when we get there. In the meantime, people feel compelled to want to say like, look at that. And what people do right now is they get their phone out and they go, holy shit, look at that. Look at this, everybody. Look at that. Because you want to be involved, but you don't want to be. Now, why don't you want to get involved? Because if you go over there and say, excuse me, you need to tell that child, no, excuse me, sweetheart. You just broke your mom's rules. And man, I'm a mom. And if I saw my child do that, they would never get M&Ms again. That's not okay. Oh, no. Like, should we? Yes, there needs to be boundaries. There needs to be limits. Does it mean that when a woman wears scantily clad clothes and goes out and shakes her ass to the Wet T-shirt concert and guys are sitting there with a heart on and that they shouldn't have a biological response, but yet they've been taught that like WAP is out there and like that's the number one thing and all the girls love it, and that like when that stuff plays that when does the grinding stop and the consent start? When does oh, I thought you liked that. Well, I did because I put it on all my social media and I told you that that's okay. But now because I've changed my mind, that's not okay. When does consent Consent and permission. Well, even before that. Oh, standards, integrity. Oh, even before. You mean you can possibly control and minimize the likelihood that you get raped or that you get mistreated? Uh-huh. You mean that's why fathers say, go back upstairs and put on more clothing because they actually love their daughters and don't want them to be vulnerable to the predators out there that don't give a crap? Because they know it increases the likelihood that someone take advantage of them? Well, I didn't realize men could think. Huh. It's true. They biologically and inherently want to protect us to a certain degree. And these mixed signals, it's all about communication. It's absolutely about communication. And communication means that we can't be afraid. Why are people so afraid to say, hey, excuse me, but you can't do that? Because people are afraid of confrontation. People are afraid of confrontation. You get into this conversation, I think some people go, oh, well, I don't know. I think they're afraid that someone's going to call the police and they're really afraid of the police. No, they're afraid of confrontation, or they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to lower their tone and simply say, excuse me, what are you doing? And someone goes, this is none of your business. Well, I just saw it with my own 2 eyes. So it's something my children could have possibly seen. I think it is some of my business. What? Yeah, absolutely. When I see mothers in the store and their kids are throwing a tantrum and I see other people like moving away, I've been known to go over there with my cart, especially if I'm alone and I'm having a good day and I've got a hot coffee and I've got extra patience and I see that mom doesn't. I go over there and I say, do you need me to stand here with you? How can I help you? And sometimes they go, oh my God, thank you. I was really embarrassed. Sometimes moms cry. Sometimes they hug me. I've never had someone tell me to fuck off. I've never had a mom be like, mind your own business. In fact, the only person that I've ever experienced in my life say that to me has been my own mother. When I was the child in the scenario and we were in the middle of the supermarket and she was high as a kite. And I said, Mom, when I'm older, am I going to have a nose like you? And she turned around and smacked me in the face. And I had a bloody nose. And she smacked me so hard, her fake nail came off. And she told me to get down and find it. And I got down on my hands and knees with blood dripping from my face, crying, trying to find her fake nail. And another mom stepped up and said, excuse me, but that is not okay. And you know what I thought to myself? Oh my God, this poor woman. Because I knew in that moment that it was going to be shifted from me to her. And that's what people are afraid of, because it will. It shifts from the vulnerable person that doesn't, cannot, isn't able to deal or handle with this for whatever reason. And you are going to have the amazing responsibility, yes, but ability nonetheless to recycle the bullshit. And that person goes, what are you going to do about it? And you say, well, I'm going to either call CPS. I'm going to probably ask them if this is routine behavior, but I'm definitely going to get in your face. Do you want to be treated that way? Should I call some of my friends on their off hours and say, hey, I know someone who likes to beat children. Do you think that that's okay? Do you not think that you're going to be held accountable? Pardon me. Pardon me. Because I can handle it. What are they going to do? Punch me? I've been punched. What are they going to do? Spit at me? I've been spit on. What are they going to do? Call me some names? Guess what? I get it every day. But if it's for the sake of helping a child or an elderly person or a black person or a white person or a child or a whatever person, a person that's vulnerable, I don't care. I don't even care what the scenario is. If I'm at the gas station, if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm in my own house, if I'm in the company of something that I know is not okay, I am willing to stand up, speak up, and face the confrontation required to recycle it. But it does mean recycle. And so when I say recycle, that is something I've learned how to do over time. When I see police officers pulling the trigger, when I see things happening or people responding in a way that they just have not been prepared for, that's really what it is. They just haven't been prepared. And that's okay. We expect police officers to be prepared because we expect that they have been exposed and trained and all this other stuff. So when we go, couldn't you have done that? Shouldn't they have pulled a taser? Well, who pulls a gun on a 16-year-old teenage girl? Somebody that doesn't know they're 16 because they look like Bigfoot, somebody that isn't quite concerned whether or not they're a girl or they're black or they're not, they're responding to a scene and they see someone pink, bold, they're going, and they know that people have already been stabbed. That means deadly force. Put it down, pow. If someone is inactive, committing a crime and possible killing another person, active homicide, that's more than justifiable reason to use a weapon. That is more than justifiable reason to use a gun. Now, if she was just like, what are you doing here? And had a knife, that's not reason. Even if she was like doing this, walking towards you with a knife. Come on, dude, you got a bulletproof vest. There's nobody around to get hurt but you and her. She might do one of these. Maybe. Not many people do that, but she looks like she might be having a bad day. And we all understand that. That is usually when the police are involved. They're not there when you win the lottery numbers. I can tell you that much. And so police are going to be like, They are going to use their assessment issues. They're going to be able to use all of this skill, this training. But however, when you watch the body cam footage, and I encourage that you do so, get as much information as you can before you have that emotional response, that you watch it and you go, holy effing cow, thank God. Because if that were me or my daughter there as someone's heaving a knife like this and has been stabbing people, I would expect that police officer to do everything they could. And you know what? We go coulda, shoulda, woulda. Everyone plays that game. And one of the possible scenarios is that poor other child, teenager, girl would have been slashed to death, cut up. Because usually with a knife, it's very ugly. It's very gross. It's very gruesome. And everybody around watching would have been, ah. And the police did what? Tased her? And she just kept going, knife in, pull, and that girl had died. And people have said, why didn't you use your gun? You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You know that when you work as a police officer, you're kind of, there's a whole demographic of people out there that like to say, fuck the police. You know that. And that's okay because you do it despite. And people go, but it's a choice. You're damn right it's a choice. And the fact that they choose to do it is amazing. Because guess what? They're going to stop. And they are. They're slowly stopping. Minneapolis, I warned you. I warned you last year when you tried to do this in the dismantling process. There's not much left. People aren't going to take that pay to do that work. People aren't going to put their lives at danger when they could do another job. It's just not going to happen. And so the combination of the lack of people wanting to do it and the integration of like robots or something else or some other culture, some other country that comes in, military, man, you want to see military, you're going to have ICE. I mean, Minneapolis already has ICE and people aren't even clear of how those laws change for that. People aren't even aware that Portland right now, that part of the deputizing your police, do you know what that means? That means you don't get your state assistance. You don't go to jail. You don't play Monopoly. You immediately are now in federal ways. The federal space is a little different. Have you ever heard of Guantanamo? Woo! Rules change. And you want to not be called a terrorist. That should be the utmost, most ridiculous. If you are doing damage to the liberty of thousands, if you are trying to break down the Constitution, if you are trying to degrade the very fabric of what keeps our democracy pure and other people from what we as Americans have always liked to think are jealous of. And by the way, other countries aren't. They're wondering if we're okay. Canada's reaching out. They need desperate help. In Canada, people are being like, you guys, we're not seeing this in the news, right? It's one shooting after the other. So the Ohio one, we're going to just say, teen girl, knife attack, Columbus shooting, police shoot another black teenager. She was unarmed. Bullshit. She was armed. She was armed with a knife in the middle of going up to stabbing another person. It's not worthy of riots. It's more people are dying and more damage is being caused on behalf of these protests turned riots than the numbers of collective police brutality over an average year annually. It's becoming ridiculous. So if people don't understand that, the whole pity party is the whole common sense thing. You begin to step back and look and go, oh, there's no factual common sense here. Oh, well, I can't support that because that's not going to lead anywhere good. It's simply going to erupt in more chaos. Chaos does not, begot sudden order. It's going to simply cause more chaos. So then we have two issues happening as far as American politics go that I just want to brush on real quick. And I know we're moving somewhat fast, but that's the idea, right? Is I want to give you guys the idea to think for yourself. Officer Tatum, he's a YouTube podcaster. He's very Christian. So I'm not particularly Christian. Sometimes it's hard to listen to him. And I know that I'm not far conservative, and he's very conservative, but he's a police officer. Just recently wrote a book, Black and Blue, but he's a police officer, and he's a Black police officer in America. And so immediately when I saw this situation, anytime it's police, I reach out to my police friends and family, my people that I know have served in this position that I've worked with, or people that I know are going to have a perspective I want to hear, and then go from there. And I would encourage you guys to do the same, even if we don't like to hear, or it doesn't make us feel good as a witch, right? I'm always saying, okay, I don't like the way this feels. Why? We tip it back into earth and go, why? Ask yourself why. If it's too much, I just can't anymore. This stuff, yes, it's sad. This morning, I went to go get coffee because our coffee machine broke. I needed coffee. It broke. Up all night doing crisis calls. It broke. I need to do stuff. I need my coffee. I go for 10 minutes. I went outside this morning. I held my chickens. My son was like, look, they're letting you hold them. I go, I know, because I love them and they know that. And I pet my chickens and we got the eggs. And I jumped in my car to go get coffee. And it only takes about 10 minutes. And it was a beautiful car ride. My coffee was great. And I pulled up in the driveway and I saw a swarm of fox running around my house, chasing my chickens with dead chicken body parts all over the lawn. And of all of my chickens, only one has survived. And it was sad, and it was horrific, and it was bloody, and it was gross. And I thought, I don't like the way this feels. Why? Well, and that's what we do. Whenever we're in that emotional space, in a therapeutic space, you just ask why, and you work yourself deductively back, and you go, well, because this just is a reminder that everything I love is temporary. This is that reminder that this morning I held these chickens and now they're not here. And I really love the sound of them, or I love this. And it's just everything is temporary, including bad things. And so this too will pass, and you find peace, and you use experience, and then you go back out into air and you share love and kindness. You don't go out into air when you don't have information or facts, and you definitely, preferably as a neighbor, and you guys are, if you're listening, that means we know each other and we're sharing the same space. If you don't have any of the information, please refrain. Please refrain. Take a moment to breathe. If you don't like the way it feels, that's a good indication something might be wrong, but what is it? Ask yourself. And there's a lot of things going wrong right now. It may not just be one trigger or one indicator. It's probably more of a collective consciousness. So let's look into some other places in the news, comprehensive things popping up. And I would encourage you guys, CNN and ABC both, as I shared yesterday, not doing a very good job. Shame, shame, shame. So I hate to even look at some of those headlines, aside from Skynet and other places where you can go. Sadly, TikTok in some spaces can give you news. But in the last 24 to 48 hours, we've had both the ex-president Trump do a speech, do like a big interview, was very well spoken, had some very controversial things to say. If you've not had a chance to go listen to it, I will say he's speaking differently. Kind of makes me wonder, as a neurolinguistic programmer, I can tell he's not scripted as usual. He kind of flies off of the cuff and says randomly weird, strange things. But there's a sense that he's more relaxed and calm, and the juxtaposition that it plays right after, to then see Biden calling for, after influencing the verdict, I might say, state representatives and numerous people, which is why I don't call that justice, to be saying, I hope the right verdict is get your effing nose out of it and stop giving us a good reason for a darn appeal. Anyway, Biden to call for businesses to give paid time off for employees to get vaccinated, as well as certain businesses giving you free beer, free marijuana, and free junk food, even $100 one-time yay for getting vaccinated. Guys, I want you to think about this. Anytime ever that you have done business 101. If you got something that you want to sell, but you can't because people don't like it, then you grab something else and then you say, hey, you don't like this? Well, I'll give you this instead. You can have both. Take both. Both. You need both. Here, you want beer? I see you like this. You got to have this before you can get this. The dangling of the carrot continues. Guys, if it's going to give you 20% off of your bill, if they're going to be willing to give you junk food and more baloney, if they're going to go to the one thing you want and dangle it in front of you, if they're going to pay you, that is not medicine. That is not medicine. That's called a bribe. I know a bribe when I hear it. That's called a bribe. And shame. Shame, shame, shame. I know your name. And if you guys out there are of any kind of separation of church and state, if you understand the importance that government stay out of your bodies, that our autonomy, pro-life or not, is the most important thing, that's what we can agree on. Stay out of my business. Stay out of my business. Ain't none of y'all business. Like, I don't care where I have to go. I'll tell you 100 different ways in 100 different languages. I'll sing it. I'll dance it. I'll do it to a tune. But stay out of my business. And definitely don't bribe my children. Don't utilize social media because it's a scam. What do you mean it's a scam? They're just trying to get innocent people vaccinated. Why? Why? So they can suddenly unmask? Because no, it doesn't give you that. It doesn't give you any of your liberties back. Oh, so that you can fly? No, those are private companies. That happened under the Patriot Act too, right? We'll only frisk you and give you a nice little anal rim for a little bit. It's just to make sure that towel heads get through safely. No, that's racist. That's an infringement of my, no, I don't need you touching me. No, I'm paying you. I'm paying you. Wait a minute. I'm paying you. Wah, 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 wah. We're paying them. Wah, 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 wah. That's not medicine. It's very important. It's very important. It's so important to know this. It's so important. It's so absolutely special to me to share this because I'll tell you, watching people have epileptic seizures, watching people have adverse reactions, watching people cry as they realize under the Emergency Authorization Act that the distributor and the manufacturer are no longer eligible for any liability on your behalf. You can seize out right there on the floor, foam out for everyone to put on their TikTok for it to get later removed. And you know what? No one's going to care. Nothing. Hope that $100 was wonderful. And it's not to be scary because some people have to get it. My dad has to get it before he's allowed to get a new kidney. He's literally dying of a terminal illness. And before he's allowed to receive the treatment that only his health insurance will allow him to get, which is not the best treatment, by the way, then he has to get the vaccine. And not this vaccine. You're not allowed to say, oh, can I get the better one? Can I get this one? Can I choose? No, you only get the one that your insurance pays for. So wait a minute. Let me see here. Are you a white male or a black male? Oh, he's a white. Thank God. You want to talk about privilege? It does still exist in some spaces. I'll take it where I can get it. And black people, you should know eugenics is alive and well because you can't choose. You can't always choose. And some countries, some whole populations in China, you mean there was a genocide recently, like since the concentration camps of Germany, since Auschwitz, there has been a genocide? There's been more than 7? I didn't know. I was out buying Louis Vuitton. I had no idea. Oh my God. Is it here? Is it spreadable? Is it contagious? It is? Oh no. How do I stop it? Oh, I don't want to do that. That takes too much work. Come on, guys. It's absolutely redonkulous. Yes. Other countries have banned it. Yes. Are there other alternatives? Yes. Big Pharma has bought things out. Yes. Ethical sleights of hands. Yes. It's dirty. It's a dirty, 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 dirty thing. It's dirty. It's yuck, yuck, dirty. You know what I mean? It's one of these things that, yuck. I don't like it. Insurance companies are the devil. And if you want to ask about where's the problem, then where is the problem? It's that. You need to stop incentivizing medicine. You need to stop incentivizing what people like to think is a basic human right or privilege, which should be water, air, food, medicine. And the fact that that isn't equal, and you're over here trying to dance around on the media for a case that doesn't even matter for a criminal. Yeah, he was a criminal. Well, does that mean he deserves to die? No, it doesn't. But are you telling me that there's going to be a certain statistical amount of people that have to buy and die, and it's really sad, and I hate that that's sad, and it could be my dad. In fact, my mom is dead from certain abuse and police. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I actually have a story that's pertaining to why I got into forensic psychology. It's so weird. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Could be a book. I might monetize off of it like everyone else. But meanwhile, let me just share with you, there's going to be very small, like 0.00 back in 2019. I think there was 6 zeros, people that are going to unfortunately die. But it won't be nearly as many babies that are aborted. It won't be nearly as many people that die that don't have clean drinking water. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. You don't need to really worry about that as much as you need to worry about the poison in your food and your medicine and the fact that you're incentivizing your medicine. The fact that they're handing the shit medicine out to the poor people and the good medicine out to the rich people and dangling some race card over here. That to me is the true sadness. And it's real. And it's real. And the old, kind of ridiculously somewhat good read of Nickeled and Dimed about the average American just trying to live and why the crime rates are going up. It's a human problem. These are human problems. They're not police problems. They're not Black people problems or white people problems. They're people problems. And when you get people in groups and when you get people, scouring over drugs, when you give people opium and then you give people methadone, when you give people Xanax, and then suddenly you tell them that, they might hit a tolerance later, but then you don't. And then their insurance drops out because we're in a pandemic. And then suddenly all of them are over here stealing. And then you change the laws to say, well, you can steal up to $900 and we won't have to technically call the police because people seem to be able to carry about that much. That's about the average amount people can steal. So we're going to go ahead and keep criminals out because we understand there's a certain democratic process. Those people are probably stealing to live. And at $1,000, we'll be able to prosecute them and call the police because we also have less police to call. So we'll see how long that lasts. But wait a minute, mom and pop stores can't afford to lose $900 in inventory. I know it's a capitalism kind of a trick where like Target and some of the bigger companies, the ones that can't afford it, they'll survive. But it doesn't that just create a ghost town? Doesn't that just like ghost town, like end of days, like Alex Jones in the 90s kind of conspiracy theory, like, oh yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Yes. Next. I don't understand. It seems so clear. Don't let it happen. So what do you do? How do you handle it? Well, when you see someone stealing, again, hold yourself accountable. Make sure that it's not your child stealing. Make sure you're not the one stealing. And if you should so happen to see someone breaking the law or doing something unethical, know that the universe, God, if you believe in him, whatever, Cardi B, divine intervention has put you there. And that if you know better, and you go, if you're doing this, if you feel compelled to do this motion of pulling out your phone, you might also, just before you pull out your phone, or if you're like, but I got to catch everything on camera. It might be my last moments. This person might shoot me because we're in real spaces. And that's true. You probably are at risk for people to be crazy because of the lawlessness. And then you pull out the phone. So this could be this is my last moments and I wanted to use it to go viral because I'm going to film somebody doing something dumb and I may or may not speak up because I may or may not be a big fat fucking pussy. And we do this. So if you should decide at this moment in your life that this is where you have come, that all paths have led to here, first of all, question yourself. But then secondly, listen to my voice. Listen to my voice. You're probably not listening to this podcast, but maybe you've heard it play maybe it's telepathically entering your mind now in the radio waves, that you would hear this voice, my voice, a voice going, interject and tell that person to stop. Tell that person to stop. Because what might happen, and I'll just give you maybe a viral sensation opportunity. Maybe I'll just give you an optimistic go viral for the right reasons. Turn it around. Recycle. Hey, sir or ma'am, you really shouldn't be stealing. And they, at that point, go, fuck, fuck, fuck. You're right. They're right. Oh, they're probably going to feel shame. One of two things is going to happen. They're either going to go, feel shame, change their mind, or they're going to go, fuck that. And they're going to like dart. They might, because people don't like conflict, they might create a conflict with you. They might, probably or not. In which case, if they run, you just got them on camera. You get to be the hero, save the day. Don't interject, because that's what corporations do say. They say, don't chase someone. That's true. You don't want to chase someone. That's police officers' job. That's what we trust them, pay them, and they're trained to handle. And bad shit goes down, which is why we don't want to do that if we're not that person, because they might shoot you, in which case we'd want a bulletproof vest and maybe be able to shoot back. So let's not do that. But what might happen is that they go, fuck, you're right. And you go, yeah, I am right. Why are you doing that? And they go, I lost my job and my kids are at home starving and I'm just hungry and I just, or whatever. They give you their reason, or they don't, or you read the situation. That then you realize, wow, I can empathize with this, and you feel connected. You may notice yourself lowering the phone because it's fucking inappropriate. That's why. Personal vulnerable spaces. But maybe, you don't. So maybe this is an extension of your body now because you're part cyborg. So it stays here, but you're like, oh, damn, I'm sorry to hear that. Like, how can I help you? Right? Because this is what police officers are trained to do. It's an extension of service to others. It's social conduct. It's nice. It's mannerly. It's what we do. It may not truly be empathetic, and you might be thinking like, oh, God, I hope they don't really say something, because maybe you're just human, and people can think that, and that's okay too. But that you would at least say, as children are watching, people are also probably watching from a distance with their phone, and that you say, can I help you? And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd ask that you delete that and not call the police, because that would just suck. And that you have a conversation. Guess what? Conversation. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. They're not Christian. Oh. In that case, it's a circle of light. And you have a moment, and you can be interjected with air magic, and you can be a disciple, and you can do, and you can change things, and you can recycle energy, and it's wonderful, and everyone has a great day. And then you go viral, and people are like, listen to this wonderful story out of Ohio. And then you go viral, and people are like, you're that one person that helped that one guy. And then we help the right people. And that's a happy ending. Like, isn't that the goal? Isn't that our goal? That's my goal. When I show up and working as a case manager, you hear kids screaming, shut up, blah, and you're, it's the case manager, shut the fuck up, hide all the drugs. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. I am not the probation officer. That is another role. I am just fine. I am safe. I am just fine. I am safe. Hi. How is your Tuesday? Can I come in? Permission, consent. You go in even though you don't want to. And I'm thinking my coffee's cold and I only make like $23 an hour and I have a master's degree and this is ridiculous, but I did it because I love people and I wasn't doing it for money, and that's fine. How are you? Oh, that's good. God, I really don't fucking care. No, I do care. That's why I'm here. What can I do to help? And you delegate services and you do it. And you might be having a bad day. You may not really want to be there, or I might be having a really great day, but this is the goal. I would think this is the goal. But instead, I don't know what's happened where people just walk away, or people just say, or people are disgusted. Oh, they're stealing. Look at that trash. Let's watch them go to jail because I'd like to ruin someone's life today. Like, I don't know if you've been to jail. It's not so bad. I mean, people are dying from sicknesses because they're not being treated in the right ways. And people like sodomy is running rampant, and like chemical castration is a thing that's weird. And like there's all sorts of stuff happening and a lack of treatment happening in prisons. But then like, democratic cities just opening prisons up because there's not so much room. And like, concerns, social concerns. Why would you want to do that? That's somebody's daughter or son. When people ask me like, how do you walk up on these big old dudes? How do you walk into a crisis situation where someone's beating on their wife and think in any way you, little old cracker snowflake Sarah, that barely stands 5'1" and 120 pounds soaking wet, what do you think you're going to do? That's somebody's son. He probably nursed at someone's nipple 20 years ago. That is a misguided person that needs love. And you know what? I like to love people with humor. I like to be funny. I like to show people that you're not alone. I've been there. I've actually been where that person is. So I'm not alone, and neither are they. I'm not scared. I'm excited to help somebody. I'm actually excited to help somebody. And that actually can be a concern, which is why you don't want social workers sometimes showing up or the only people showing up, because we aren't always aware. One of the reasons that I went into military and police training is that I found, after being held at gunpoint, after having been in very vulnerable situations, because oftentimes in probation or civil commitment or working with people, you're going into their homes, you're sitting there, you've built rapport, it's your 10th visit, and all of a sudden they're holding you with the, dental floss from behind. These things happen. And you have to be able to talk your way out of it, or wiggle your way out of it, or empathize your way out of it, and know what to do and what to say to de-escalate a situation, and preferably not have the situation happen at all. But people that work in social services throw themselves into where the fire already is. You're calling 911 because there's a problem. The fact that millions of calls to 911 are had each year in America. Go to your local city. Like today, I would love for all of you watching, help me with comments and shares, because that's huge and that's a big, big, big help. But I would also love if you could share where you're from and how many police dispatches are made and how many people die by police in a year on average, because it is amazing. And that is why still, even after George Floyd, even after Daunte Wright, even because I can both say rest in peace and thank you for your service. I can do both. I'm versatile. It does not have to be one or the other. It can't be an absolute. I am not a Sith. I am not a Sith. I'm not. And so no man's land is about that space of cooperation, that middle ground. It takes being able to utilize empathy to step through with the facts and experience and maturity, and then come to a place in air that you're communicating with people. When communication doesn't happen, when you're using the wrong words, when your tone is a scream, or when you're not listening, it can be pretty frustrating, huh? And in this case, fire is not going to help. And screaming is not going to silence the screams of those who cannot breathe. We need to give more air. We need to give more earth, more time, more patience, more listening to each and every opportunity that we have. If our true goal is to get better, we need to understand that it starts with accountability in the home. It starts with the accountability of self. And it also starts with diffusing fear. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. A lot of times people will go, "Ooh, if I ask a question that's a little bit, nah." Well, it probably is a little bit of my desensitizing, because I spend a lot of time doing assessments for people, and you're asking questions like, why did you rape them? Why did you do this? Why did you prefer the anus over the vagina? Why did you do it postmortem? Why did you do it 22 times as opposed to 21 times? Because we're trying to measure recidivism. We're trying to determine the accurate treatment. But you guys, we have numerous things happening in and around all of us all the time that it's, we've got to take into account. So if you could tell me where you're at and give us the numbers, the actual factual numbers that you can find, and cite them if you can, on how many police dispatches happen in your city, in your community, and how many of those end in a fatality. So then that way we get from a source and to know, and for you to know, and for me to know. Meanwhile, 1 hour ago, Virginia police officer fires after donating to the Kyle Rittenhouse Defense Fund. The Lieutenant William Kelly, who worked in the internal affairs for the Norfolk Police Department, was fired after donating $25 to the Rittenhouse's defense fund. This is going to be kind of an interesting situation because this is a lieutenant and this is internal affairs. So this obviously is somebody who knows very much what they are doing. And in this $25 donation to his defense, the officer's message at the time read, "God bless. Thank you for your courage. Keep your head up. You've done nothing wrong." So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Kyle Rittenhouse. Please go back, check out that case, right? This is one of those situations, 18, I think he was 17 at the time of the shooting, within his rights to open fire, self-defense, yada, yada. The Jacob Blake, Wisconsin stuff lately has become a big issue because we have active shooters happening in Wisconsin and Minneapolis. Again, people saying the George Floyd Square is a place of peace. There were people that were shot and killed, dead, more than one, more than five, I believe more than five up at this point, in the last month. So be aware. Also, My Pillow Inc. founder Mike Lindell and former Silver Spoons child actor Ricky Schroeder, and according to this news article, is kind of chiming in on how people have contributed with bail, with donations, and whether or not we even think people in a political position should be able to have influence over this kind of stuff and where their limits on their personal stuff is allowed to be. You guys, these are really good questions, and these are things that we as people in the community need to be able to discuss. Should Nancy Pelosi be able to do this or that? Should she be able to be buying stocks in Tesla before other people have access to certain information? Martha Stewart went to jail for some of these things. Why are our politicians allowed to do it? Why are some of the people involved with the IRS and Internal Revenue Service going to parties and after parties with Jeff Bezos, one of the world's richest people, heavily involved and influential, like shut all these people down. They're not allowed to have open businesses and you're going to only be able to order from Amazon, and you can still get Prime with 30 days off because I'm nice and it's a pandemic. I'll go ahead and give it to you for free for 35 days, but shut everyone else down. I'm human. Just these standards, guys, liberties. What lives, what liberties are most important? Why are we not protesting 7-year-old shot in McDonald's drive-thru this past week? Why? I don't understand it. So help me if you can, and be sure and post what's going on in the news and what's happening in your area. I know we are at the hour mark, guys. So if you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend. If you know someone who would like to join us or someone that you'd like me to interview, I've had a few recommendations already, and I absolutely can do that. Interviewing and interrogations is one of my specialties. So I would love to do that, and also extensions of this show. I will likely be on tonight doing some live chats, and I really, really appreciate your support. Thank you guys so very much. Let me know how your Wednesday is going. And don't forget, No Man's Land is a show that you can catch noon Central Standard Time every Monday through Thursday. So I will be here tomorrow on Thursday. And again, hopefully I'll be on tonight. You guys check out paranormalsarah.com if you want to connect with me. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.